This is why I set up early. All right. Okay, you can all hear me now, yes? There we go. All right. Hopefully I won't screw this up too badly, so bear with me. Anyway, as I was saying, it is officially, well, I think it's 4:01 now, but it is time for me to start doing my presentation. This should be the last time you see my face today. You might hear me later on this evening, but today, this hour, is my turn to regale you all with the wondrous fun time of being an anthropologist in the Amazon via the incredibly brutal game Green Hell. And if you haven't played the game Green Hell, or if you haven't ever heard of it, and it's Hell, Hell, if you can't get past my accent, um, it is a game that's put out by the independent company Creepy Jar. I think it's their only game right now, or at least it is up on their website. I know they're working on expanding it. This was gifted to me by a friend because they knew I'm an archaeologist who studies archaeology in games, and they thought I might get a kick out of it. And they are right. I did. It is a fabulous game. I really recommend it. It is aggravating as hell to play. I will tell you that. So if you're looking for an easy, shut your brain off kind of game, this is not for you. It's got an insanity system to it, and you can go insane. You can die in a myriad of ways very easily. But the crux of the game is supposed to be that you are an anthropologist in the Amazon jungle and you have nothing. So you have to survive via your own wits, and everything is trying to kill you. So it's kind of like doing archaeology in the southern states. Anyway, I do have some clips of the game that I want to share because there are a few things that I want to go over in the game, because I think Green Hell is a great representation of how other people view anthropology and archaeology, and how they'll use what they believe they know about it to create a narrative of a game. Now I am not at any point here slamming Green Hell. I'm not slamming Creepy Jar, because I don't know if they consulted with an anthropologist or an archaeologist when they made this game. I tried to look that up. There's no information about it on their website, and there's no information in any of the interviews that I read. So I don't know if they spoke with an actual, like, representative of Amazonian tribes, the Amazon archaeologists who are familiar with the area, anthropologists who are familiar with the tribes and the tribal areas. But that being said, the game still looks and feels fairly accurate for a video game. So let me see if I can do this. Now, all of my gameplay has been pre-recorded, so I'll be jumping back and forth throughout this, because trust me, you do not want to watch 6 hours of me stumbling around, dying every 5 minutes. So this is hopefully just kind of a highlight reel that I'm going to be able to go back and forth to kind of make my points. So let's get that started. And let's see. So this is actually one of the things that I really like about the game is the graphics are just pretty. And I love this notebook. This notebook comes up as a loading screen, and the image changes occasionally to different really stunning views throughout the game. What I like about the sketchbook, though, is it's really actually very common for field workers especially to use a sketchbook to kind of just, a lot of times we're doodling, but sometimes we're also like recording things this way as opposed to taking cameras. Now, for those of you who are old enough to remember doing archaeology before there were phones on your cameras, this was pretty much the only way you could record things. And I would imagine someplace like the Amazon, I don't do archaeology there, but someplace where, you know, a readily available rechargeable source for your technology isn't there, I would think that you would still rely a lot on pen and paper recording. Also, I just think it's a really pretty picture. So day one of this game is obviously the walkthrough. It's the how the game, how do you move around in the game, how you interact with the game, and all that. It also sets up the storyline. And so the person you are playing as is Jake. I forget his last name. It's also not important because we don't like Jake, trust me. I'm going to try to not spoil the story of the game for you too much, but Jake is a jerk, and as an anthropologist, Jake should not be doing research. So this is Jake, who's just climbed up the rocks here, and he is looking back down the cliff at his cohort, which is also his wife, whose name is Mia. She is the translator. It's not poor Jake. Jake did all this to himself. She is his translator. You'll see as we go through some of this, he doesn't speak the language of the people that he is studying. I don't think he speaks it at all in this first storyline, because there's, I think, 2 or 3 storylines now for the game. So this is the first story that came out for the game. He never speaks with the tribal folk that he encounters. Only she does. And throughout the intro part of the game, you find out that he's not very well liked by any of the tribal folk either, which is kind of why she's here with him in the first place, because he has done something that I will insist you play the game to find out about, so that the tribal people will not speak with him whatsoever. Good job, anthropologist. So, yeah. And I will say that the sound didn't record on my game very well, but you can still kind of read the captions. So what we're witnessing here is Jake finding their initial base, and I wanted to leave this in because A, I think it's really pretty, and B, it's neat to look around the camp itself and kind of see how the game designers imagined a base would look like set up in a jungle situation. So Jake's radioing back to Mia, telling her that he's found the tent. And so you can see the tarps, you can see the crates and things that have canned goods and whatnot in it. You can see the tent kind of over on this side. And we'll go inside the tent here in a second, because there's some really important stuff that's inside the tent. And this part of the game, I'm very impressed with this part of the game. And I'm impressed with this part because of the information that the game is providing to you as a player. It's almost educational. Which I'm always impressed when a game goes that extra mile, and instead of just like info dumping things on you, like press X to pick up an item, they're also like trying to educate you as a person, even if it's just through visual cues. That always impresses me with a game. Oh yeah. So I put audio in here just so it wasn't just dead space, but anyway. This is Jake talking to Mia about where he lives. Jake is a whiner. We don't like Jake because Jake whines, he cusses a lot, he gets frustrated at everything for no apparent reason. Jake. Alright, so here we are inside the tent, and just some of the interesting tidbits that are provided for us as a player to kind of bring us into the game aspects. This mask being one of them, you know, it kind of reminds us that we're not just in any old jungle, that there are people here that we might be interacting with. Yeah, and this is another thing that I really enjoyed. The fact that there are write-ups about common things that you will encounter as you play through the game, like the tapir, the capybara, and the armadillo here. It's just a real quick write-up, you know, so you know what they are. These also happen to turn out to be animals later on in the game that you can hunt for food, and that you probably want to hunt for food, because again, this is also a survival game, so if you choose to play this game. What I like about this is the realism that they went for in this little pinup here, and that this is in your tent at the beginning of your game. So this is something that Jake and Mia, as our two protagonists, decided that they needed to have in their tent. You know, this is their second time here, and they need to put up pictures of non-toxic, non-unfriendly animals. It's like, good job, guys. But anyway. Are we stuck? I'm afraid to mess with this because I'm afraid to make it screw up. That's the sound that capybaras make, by the way. This is also another little tidbit that they give you, is a little bit of cultural background of the tribal people that you will be encountering. And of course, everything that you're finding here is important to the game and the gameplay and the story itself, but we're not really looking at that so much. We're kind of looking at this from an archaeological, anthropological view. So it's interesting to have this here. This particular tidbit gets more interesting because there's a tape recorder, this tape recorder here, and does it play? Yeah. So you can read what the tape recorder says, and there's an interesting line in here about it. I want to pause the tape here. When you're listening to the tape recording, there's an interesting line in it where it says, "This practice may seem barbaric." And right there is our first red flag that I don't think they actually consulted with an anthropologist when they put this game together because of that particular word usage. Because I can't think of anyone who would use the word barbaric at any point to describe any tribal practice ever. Even if it's one that they don't particularly agree with. It's just a part of language that we just don't use anymore. And it's because for obvious reasons, the word's loaded. But you do hear it being used when you're reading things like popular media, older stories, and this game as well. And I think that's because I think a lot of the information that they have here, I feel like they pulled out of National Geographic. And you'll see what I mean later when we get to some of the other parts of the game. Again, the game's beautiful. I mean, these watercolors alone are gorgeous. The Yabawaka are not real. They're made for the game. And there's another group that we'll see in a second here. I'm just reading the chat real quick. But there's another group here. So these are the good. This is so horrible. These are the good natives, and then there's a group that are the bad natives. And the bad natives are scary looking, and even the good natives are scared of them, and they're the ones that try to kill you, because they're pretty much the only ones you can interact with in the first story of the game. So here we go. Here's the line, yeah. It's barbaric to us. Is it though? We do weirder things. This is another one of those, like, oddly educational tidbits that they put in the game, you know, like, so you can actually see what the different strata of the rainforest are. I thought that was interesting. It's an interesting thing to stick in here. And this is me just looking around the camp. So this is the basic setup of the camp. Don't get comfortable. You lose all of this in the game. Okay, so part of the narrative of this game is that there is a lost tribe. A lost tribe. And you, the player, are doing this game because you need to find the lost tribe in order to find a cure for an illness. And there's a pandemic. Because, of course, there is. This particular narrative is probably the thing that sticks with me the most because it's so cliche, in my opinion. But it's cliche to me because I've gone through college and I'm educated, y'all. And so, like, I know there's really not such a thing as a lost mystical tribe out in the Amazon anymore. It doesn't really exist. And it's not how this game portrays it as well, because this game does add elements like mystical elements, almost magical elements into the game. We'll see that later. But it's very common to see that kind of thing, especially in pulp type fiction. And so I think it's really interesting with this game to see that overlap. Again, another reason why I don't think they had an anthropologist on staff consulting with them, because I don't see this going over well. I could be wrong. There could have been someone, and I just don't know who they are. And I'm not being critical of that person if there was someone on staff. I mean, a game's got to be entertaining. I mean, we play games to be entertained, not to be educated necessarily. But anyway, I do think it's interesting to see this game using that old pop culture, pulp fiction style, mystical lost tribe with the cure for the unknown disease. You actually know what the disease is throughout the game, but anyway, my point being, it's interesting that this game is bringing that back. It doesn't make the game unlikable, I guess is what I should say. But as somebody who was trained to be an archaeologist through anthropology, which I think a lot of us were, I know some of us went through history departments and that kind of stuff. It's kind of painful. It's a little painful to play, especially at some of the more eye-rolling moments. But if I can step away from that and look at this game through the lens of someone who doesn't have my level of academic education, or at least my type of academic education, because the person who gave this to me is a medical person, they loved it. Their problem was when you get to the cure, how you start getting the cure part, because that's where their knowledge starts getting invaded in the game. And for me, I'm just like, well, push some buttons. And that's kind of where we were at with this. So it's interesting to me that this game, depending on where your knowledge base is, hits different nerves. I'm just reading the chat real quick, and I see that there's a comment. The bad natives wear masks. They don't wear masks, but they do have quite a bit of body paint that is obstructive to the overall view of them. It's supposed to make them look scary or make them look like skeletons. So yes, it is a kind of dehumanizing thing. However, it is not an unknown form of body modification. So yes, but also, this is why I'm like, I feel like they got most of their knowledge base out of like National Geographic, because it's like they're just this side of factual with enough fancifulness to it to make it playable, I guess is where I'm going with that. I'm just real quick skimming the comments, so if I miss something, I'm not doing it on purpose. I would like to hear about it from an epidemiologist's perspective, but I don't know any. So, all right. So this is the Lost Tribe. The other two things here, again, this stuff, again, feeds into the overall gameplay and story. So these are two locations that you will encounter in the game itself. So it's just kind of an interesting tidbit. And let's see. Where are we going? More weird animal noises. Clearly I meant to linger on this and lecture you all a lot longer. Let's see. Okay, so these are the poisonous things. This note, I think that's going to come up next. No, we're back at the rainforest. We've already seen that.
Damn it.
I told you Jake swears a lot. He swears at everything. Like, Jake is constantly swearing at everything in this game. I just want to point that out to you. Okay, so here's another really... This is a very important piece of the storyline of the game, because how you progress through the storyline of the game is very dependent on your ability to brew this particular drink and have a moment of received information. And I think it's supposed to be not necessarily received mystical information. I think it's supposed to be memory recovery, because one of the things that you are kind of strung along with in the storyline is if Jake is in his right mind to begin with. Like, how much of what's occurring in this game is real and how much of what is occurring in the game is Jake's imagination because he's crazy, I guess. I don't know. We never really get too deep into that. However, there is this brew that you're going to make, and I have a clip of the first drinking of it that I'll get to, where you, in the game, you're encouraged to brew this concoction and then drink it. Unsupervised. You are not assisted by anybody within the tribes who are supposed to be the ones who know all about this thing. Ah, here we go. But you're just supposed to, like, put this thing together somehow, drink it, and then have a moment of enlightenment, which allows you to unlock the next level of the game that you need to proceed to in order to finish the game. So you have to do this in game. It is something that has to be done. It's that whole concept of, you know, mystical native medicine, you know, that fixes everything. You don't know what's going on. You don't know why it works. It just works because it's you know, it's native. And that's a trope that we encounter a lot when it comes to these kinds of pulpy stories. Like, and I don't even think it's like, it is culturally insensitive. It is. But I don't think it's being culturally insensitive to be culturally insensitive. I think it's a storytelling mechanism where it's like, I don't have time to figure out how this is supposed to work. So it's just, you know, miracle, it works. And I think it's just kind of lazy writing, personally, as someone who also writes. But as an anthropologist, it does create the problem of this concept that, you know, mystical, natural medicine, it's a plant, it's not a drug kind of thing. Okay, so I was talking about the painted warriors, the skull-painted warriors, the baddies. These are the baddies. And as you can see, mysterious painted warriors. It does mention that the tribal people are also afraid of them. The game doesn't really... You don't know if these people are real or not throughout the game. So there's that added level of, are these even... When you encounter these people in game, because you do, are you even actually really encountering them, or are you basically hallucinating that you're encountering them? Are they ghosts? Are they ghosts of the jungle? Are they spirits? Are they actual, like, and they're all male, are they actual guys that paint themselves up this way and then attack you for no apparent reason other than you exist? So it does give us that, you do get that interesting dichotomy in this game of, you know, the aggressive, violent native who just attacks you for no reason at all, and you can't even talk to them. You have no ability to reason with them whatsoever. it's just not a game mechanic that you're allowed to have. And then you also have this very passive, almost childlike, helpless, good native that you'll see later on. You are encouraged to basically save, which I'm sure all of you understand why that's a problem. And I think it's something that the game, again, another reason why I don't think they had somebody on staff, because I understand that that the game wanted to give you a mission and wanted to give you tasks to do, but that isn't maybe the best way they could have gone about that. It is very much the weird magical white people, white savior trope. Yes, but I'm not letting magical white people die. That was just too funny. All right. But anyway, this is your first warning in game that you're going to come across these particular people. Now, they're the only human characters that you encounter. Everything else in this game is an animal or an insect or a plant that you eat. And this is Mia's note telling you that she went ahead without you to go talk to the tribe because the tribe won't talk to her if you're with her. So Mia basically dumps you. As you deserve, Jake. Alright, so this is part of the storyline. I'm sorry about the game being so dark. The game is very dark. This is my screen, full resolution. The game is dark. I got nothing. It is my one major kvetch about this, is the fact that it's so hard to see this game. Mia's doing great. So, what we're looking at here right now is, I mean, some of you may have put two and two together, but this is a, yeah, it's a cartel.
Them, do you? It could be why this place
is important.
The Yabahuaca are not violent. If it was them, they must have been provoked.
This place almost looks untouched. I mean, if they were at war, wouldn't they have burned it down?
They would have never started a fire in the jungle. They consider it sacred.
Right. Okay, over and out.
And there you get to see me saving the game. Not only is the clip important because, you know, the cartel whole thing, like, they try to add this level of authenticity by throwing in this concept of drug production in the Amazon. I'm not saying it's not real. I'm just saying I don't know if this is accurate. And it's also not incredibly important to the storyline of the game, so I'm not sure why this is here. I think it's just to create a juxtaposition between Jake isn't the bad guy because the bad guys are these guys who are no longer here, who are apparently cleared out by the natives, and then we have Mia, of course, defending them, saying, "Oh no, they would never do that. You know, they view everything as sacred, everything as wonderful. You know, they would never be violent." And anybody who's ever studied any kind of cultural group knows that that's not true. There is no group that is inherently, constantly innocent, and that's how the Yabahuaca are represented by Mia, because Mia is your voice of reason throughout this game. You don't play Mia, you interact with Mia, and Jake is the doer. So again, you're also getting that male, female, you know, the guy is the doer and the woman is the calm one, the one that brings reason and rationale, where Jake walks around swearing at rocks. Like, I'm not joking, he swears at rocks. But it's, I keep going back on this, but it's very tropey. And it's very not what an anthropologist would do. Keep in mind, Jake, not Mia. Mia's an interpreter. Jake is the anthropologist. Jake is the one who should know about the drug cartels in the area. He should know about the Yabawaka. He should know about their religious practices. He should know about how they view nature. He shouldn't be the one that already knows that the Yabawaka would not be the ones who would have attacked these people. But Jake is not that character. Jake doesn't know any of this stuff. He has to run it all through Mia before you as the player find out about it. And I don't know if that's the game using Jake as an unreliable narrator in order to tell you as the player information that you need to move through the storyline, or if that's the game developers didn't consult with an archaeologist or an anthropologist, so they don't know how much research goes into going out and doing one-on-one interaction with any group. Especially not just a lost tribe in the Amazon. I mean, I would think there'd be like years worth of research that would occur before you would go out and do that. And I would also expect you to take, gear with you that you wouldn't promptly lose and then have to resort to eating grubs and unknown mushrooms to survive. But it's a game. Yeah, Jake got his degree from Google University. So that's why I love that clip in here, is because I wanted you guys to hear how the game talks about the Yabawaka before we even encounter them. And also the way you save is by clicking on the calendars. Just FYI, if you ever get here. You can also hear them singing. So that's your cue that the aggressive natives are nearby. They apparently always sing. I don't know if that's just the game giving you a clue that they're nearby so that you don't just stumble out and accidentally get attacked by them, or if they think that, people in the Amazon are always singing. I don't know. You get jaded with this after a while. Okay, so remember I was talking about the mystical brew that you have to drink in order to progress through the game. Like, you have to do this. There's 3 different times that you have to drink the drought in order to progress to the next level of the game, or you can't finish the story. So I'm going to let this play through, and so you guys can see the... So this is the ritual bowl that's just, hanging out, as you do, in this abandoned campsite, as you do. And these are all the unknown things that you can eat. You never identify them, ever. They just constantly maintain themselves as unknown mushrooms. You don't even write down tasty. Jake's bad at his job, is what I'm trying to say. And also the game is the gameplay, it's so nitpicky. It's so nitpicky. Drives me crazy. I do like it though. If I'm not playing the storyline and I'm just playing the game, it's actually a really fun game. Because it's so nitpicky. If you're one of those kind of people that really likes to build, if you like building and survival games, this is A+ your game. But this is what you have to go through to start a fire. Every time. Every time. Alright, so here he is applying the embers to the water. And here we are. I'm going to be quiet for about 7 minutes so you guys can watch. This is the first... This is what happens after you drink this stuff for the first time.
Hey, what are you doing here?
If you can't see, there's a child in
wait.
the woods. There he is.
What?
Personally, I think this is super pretty. I cannot fault the game on graphics. It is a gorgeous game. And this is with the crappy relay.
Kid? Hello?
Do you remember?
Do you read French?
Mia? Is that you?
First contact is always difficult. They're extremely weary.
I don't remember anything. You were calling to me. I ran out of the tent and...
They have to. Civilization is killing, and we don't even realize it.
Mia.
Maybe it would have been better if I'd just died back then.
Mia,
When the American colonization began, the conquistadores brought their diseases here with them. Many tribes were wiped out, and the rest moved even deeper into the jungle. Chief Gurini went on and on about whole generations of his ancestors being decimated, until they received a gift from the jungle. And me? Naively, I assured them about our good intentions.
just let me.
They trusted us. Embraced us as their own. They even shared their secret with us. Dios mío, ¿qué hemos hecho?
I just wanna...
Jake? Come in, please. I need you.
Mia? Wait! I'm here!
Hello? Jake? Please. I can't live without you.
Mia, is it really you? What happened? Are you safe?
Gracias a Dios que estás vivo. Me?
And they just talk for a minute here. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. So, I have a bunch of things to say about this, and I saw some of you making comments. It does look like, they do look like dioramas out of a museum. When you play the game and the pictures are higher resolution, they're very pretty, and they're very well done, and they're very realistic looking. I don't know how much any of you really know about like Amazonian tribes, but there's this thing where some of them wear what they call a penis sheath. And I don't know if you could tell, but there's several of the male individuals in those dioramas were doing that. The hairstyles, again, very distinct, but they're not necessarily like indicative of all Amazon tribes. Which, you know, as somebody who plays ESO, the whole idea of combining multiple cultures together to create a new culture for gameplay purposes is not lost on me, which I think is what's happening here with the Yabawaka, is they're trying to combine what they've read about or know from Google about different Amazonian tribes. And so they're adding these elements in so that someone like me who has a passing knowledge of it will be like, oh, how realistic. But someone who actually studies these tribes might have more of a reaction if they have a larger knowledge base about it. Again, it leads me to believe that they did not have a consult on staff. I mean, I'm going to keep harping on that, but there's really nothing you can do about it in the past tense of the game except, ask maybe you should do that in the future. But the game's already out. It's already got 2 expansions, a third one. It just launched for console games, and I know that there's, I think, 2 more expansions that are planned for later on in the year. I see that you say it's hard to combine tribes and reduce them to stereotypes, but clearly it is not. And the average person who's, again, their knowledge base doesn't extend beyond Google isn't going to catch any of it. I don't know if that's necessarily good or bad. In my opinion, it's bad, but think about the average person who really has time to do such a deep dive as to be able to distinguish characteristics in this video game of separate tribes. The other thing that I have an issue with is the whole drinking the drought and the mystical magical. It's very pretty to watch. Very pretty, very trippy, fabulous screensaver. But there's that whole concept of the innocent child leading him forward. In the game, when you come to that first set of rocks that have the pictographs on them, it's blocked. You can't go through that. You can't progress past that point in game until you do this drink, and then that opening occurs. After this, it stays open and you can go on to the next section of the game. So that's why I'm saying there's like this mystical, magical element that's introduced. What opened that cave? Was it always closed? Is it still closed? Is Jake just imagining it? Is he standing next to the rock banging his head on it? I don't know. And neither do you, and that's the point. But we do know that by drinking this magical drink made out of like nasty rainwater and a vine and some red berries in some combination that we are unaware of and never get any actual instruction on, that'll move rocks, y'all. So...
I'm safe. Trust me. Tell me what happened.
Let's let her finish up, because after this,
trying to contact you.
Oh, that's my other big complaint is with Mia, and I noticed that a lot of games do this. And again, another reason why I don't think they had a console is Mia randomly uses Spanish words, and I feel like it's because they couldn't figure out a better way to explain to the player that she was not white or not Anglo. Anglo is not really the right word. Well, anyway, they're trying to show diversity, and the only way they could do it is by giving her random words to throw into what would normally be a regular speech pattern. So, I don't know. It's just a minor complaint of mine.
I was hoping you could tell me that. You called me in the middle of the night.
Yeah, see, here we go again.
I ran out to look for you, and all I remember is running and
I want to jump ahead.
falling.
Wait, you fell? That doesn't sound good. Okay, take it easy. Breathe. Do you know where you are?
I have no idea.
Can you give me
And
some
why doesn't
clue
he?
as to
He's
your
in the middle of an
whereabouts?
abandoned...
Landmark
Like,
or
why doesn't he know
something?
where he is? He's even got a watch
the
that gives
village.
him...
Recently I found a tribal
More
village.
than he needs to
It's
use.
deserted, though. Not sure why.
Is it a large, round village?
No, rather small. Just a few huts.
Cariño, if it's not the main village, it could be anywhere. We never found all the campsites.
Hey, there has to be another way. Found a map. It's half burnt, but there's a location marked on it. Lambda 2. Not sure what...
I'm just going to see if I can jump ahead. Here we go. I think I jumped ahead a little far. So in the second drop, there we go. In the second drop of this game, you finally get to interact with the tribes, but that's because it's a prequel. So in the prequel of the game, you get to interact with the friendly tribes people, and this is where you find out, as someone playing the game, that's where you find out how they're deciding to portray the good tribe in the game as being very incapable of helping themselves, because this is how the tribal elder, there's only one, and he wears a mask, which annoys me a lot. Not because of the mask, but just because of, like, you'll see. And so this is the main village that you interact with in the first part, and you have to gain their trust. And there's only certain ways that you can do it. And one of them is finding and rescuing the tribe's kids. Like, why am I rescuing these kids from the jungle when they've lived here their entire lives? These children are more prepared for living out here in the wild than Jake is. Another way that you get their, you build rapport with them is you find their fallen tribesmen and you build a funeral pyre for them. You don't perform any kind of ceremony, and you don't return the body to perform a ceremony on. You are just responsible for building the pyre and reducing them to ash. Another way that you build rapport is you learn these various legends. And the legends are written on rocks. And the legends are written in tribal pictographs, which comes back to, it's not until this prequel drops that Jake stumbles through the language of the people of whom he's studying. He can apparently read it much better than he can speak it. And the fourth way that you can get their goodwill is by destroying their enemy villages. Oh, and rescuing the women. Sorry, there's 5. My bad. So you also have to, like, rescue the women who are always in a cage, tied up, and unable to rescue themselves. So again, we're really digging into some tropes here that I think, as an anthropologist, it would have been gone over about how maybe these aren't the best things to be portraying in the game. So this is the Elder. And this is our Elder. He tells us that they've been attacked and that they need our help because they're incapable, basically, of doing any of this themselves. It's kind of insulting. Again, I think it's just the game's way of giving you something to do with Jake, other than just stumble around the jungle. This really could have been done better. Yeah, so he's angry about something. I don't remember what. So, how long have I been rambling at this point? Almost an hour. All right, so the big point here is that, yeah, this irritates me as an anthropologist. Yeah, it irritates me as someone who is a casual feminist. It irritates me in general as someone who doesn't understand why we have to use these tropes to get a storyline across. However, this game's huge. It's very well received. People really enjoy it. It's actually fun to play as long as, I mean, I don't care for the storyline themselves, but you can play this game and completely ignore the storyline. It's an open world game. You can just try to survive. You can even adjust the difficulty levels. So if you don't want to deal with the insanity system, which I highly recommend not doing, you can turn it off and just play the game and try not to die from every damn snake that's in the ground. It's a good game. And that's the problem. It's a popular game. It's got a good following. It's got really good reviews. The publishing company is, as far as I know, not embroiled in any kind of weird bad publicity or anything like that. It's well received. And this is the story that they're telling. They're not doing it maliciously. They're doing it because this is the story as they understand it. But with games, as with all other kinds of media, this story is going to go forward. People are going to ingest it. Yeah, we all understand we're playing a game, but this game is realistic enough that at some point people are going to think they're encountering facts. They're encountering reality here. Like, someone's going to believe that this is an actual mask that is worn by the Yabawaka-esque people who live in the Amazon. Is it? I can't answer that question, honestly. I can't tell you if the pictographs that are being shown are authentic. I can't tell you if the songs that are being sung are authentic. I'm skeptical and I'm jaded, so I say no. But what if I wasn't? And so this is my thing when I encounter this kind of stuff in games. I love this game. I really do. I really like playing this game. But I can see the problems, and I can see the problems going forward. And you know, I'm always making like calls out to the anthropology and the archaeology community. And, you know, we're always like, oh, we would love to be consulted by video games. I think this is maybe one of those games where we should be reaching out to them. Not in a weird confrontational way. Or maybe we should be playing this game, and when we're playing this game, we should be giving commentary about, you know, this isn't factually true, this isn't factually true, but in a good way. You know, not in a tearing the game to pieces kind of way, but in a, wow, I really like this game, oh, by the way, that's not how that works kind of way. So that's my big call to action, rah rah, everybody get your pitchforks and stuff, and let's go storm the castle. I do have a couple more things I want to show people, just because I think they're kind of cool. I really do like the way that they decided to portray the village and all of that. I think it's pretty. This is one of the encounters you have where you're rescuing... This is one of the warriors for the tribe. So he's got a stomach ache, and you've got to help him to get points, basically. And he doesn't want my modern medicine. So I give him charcoal. Because, you know, I'd much rather eat charcoal than swallow a pill. Whatever. And that, I think, is also another thing that irritates me about this, is like the depiction of this tribal group completely rejecting the outside world in favor of other methods, native methods that are purer. They never really explain why. This is one of the legends that you encounter. I think there's 4 or 5 different ones, and you can tell which ones they are by the large blue symbol. There's different symbols. Again, I can't tell you if these are authentic pictographs or if this is something that and I'm sure I'm using the wrong word anyway, or if this is something the game came up with for the Yabawaka. That noise is a snake attacking you, by the way. I thought I had another one on here. I do. So you see, it tells you it's a legend, and then you click on it, and Jake reads it out loud for you. You also get a subtitle explaining it. You only get these little pieces, and you have to put the whole story together, and then it's a riddle, and you have to solve the riddle. And if you solve the riddle, then the tribe likes you more for some reason. I do like the pictographs. And I love the fact that they're, like, so brilliant. They're easy to see. Let's see, what else have I got? Oh. I really tried hard. Okay, so this is the overall village. And here's again that mystical thing. You see the green light? That's a torch. But it's a special torch. It's a magical torch. As you recover people and as you save, like, the warriors and rescue the women and bring the children back, they appear in the village sites, and so the village becomes more and more populated. And so there'll be more people as you do more in the game. But you can't interact with them after you've rescued them. There's no interaction with them whatsoever. They don't even give you food. If you're starving to death and you come into camp, you're just gonna die. They just let you die there. I also wanted you guys, I don't know if you saw them as you were walking by, but like the decoration of the tribal area with, I have no other way of explaining it other than like primitive motifs, you know, that concept of bones and skulls and sinew and feathers. And I'm not saying tribal people didn't use those elements, but they are typically used in a decorative kind of way and not just like a skull on a stick kind of thing, which is what you see a lot of in this game. Which again makes me think that like National Geographic, Google University, that kind of thing. I think we have to keep in mind, though, as archaeologists and anthropologists, this is where people are going for their information. They're going to Google. They're going to Wikipedia. They're going to the internet. They're going to National Geographic if we're lucky. And frankly, Nat Geo's not that great of a place to go anymore. They really like their aliens, so just keep that in mind. They're not coming to us. They're not coming to anthropologists. They're not coming to archaeologists. So I think at this point we have two options. We can either bombard these guys and be like, hey, we're here, use us. Or we can make our stuff more accessible to the average people. And to wrap up my big, long explanation here, and thank you all for working with me for an hour. But to my archaeologists and my anthropologists who are present, I really think it's important that we find ways to reach out to the public in a way that they find engrossing and they find interactive. Video games being one of those ways, good media being another, and publishing our work in an accessible, a publicly accessible way via a blog, a Twitter, an Instagram, a YouTube channel, a homemade game it's vitally important. And I hate to be a doomsayer, but if we don't start doing this kind of stuff, we're going to see our fields shrink, and not in a good way. We're going to see people lose interest and faith in us. So if you want to have a job 20 years from now, you might want to start playing video games now, is what I'm saying. No, I'm kidding. But anyway, thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for correcting my sound issues there at the beginning. And thank you all for coming to the con. Please stick around. We have a lot more presentations by a lot more people who are looking at some very fabulous topics and games and presenting some demos. And we're also going ghost hunting later on tonight, playing Phasmophobia. So please come back for that and hang around for that. And thank you all for coming.